Hello again, Ian Stuckey here, proprietor of Mastermind Games, back with another painting video, and today is the largest model I've done thus far. A Prime Axiom from the Convergence of Cyriss faction of Warmachine. So, getting started with 09206 Tarnished Steel. So, the reason that I picked up the Convergence of Cyriss when it came out is because I collect B-grade movies, and they for the most part look like robots right out of a B-grade movie. So this is going to go over a lot of it. And this is going those far, I better go ahead and start on the top. And I have a spare of this on hand for when I run out. Which, if it doesn't happen on this model, will probably happen not long after. Now, the color scheme I do is not technically official, though it's close. Mostly I'm switching out my highlights and doing a different color of lighting than what is considered official. Reason for that being the official lighting color on Convergence is blue, which I already do on my Signar for Warmachine. So I wanted to do something a little different. I think having the entire model a fairly standard steel and chrome is fairly boring, so I mix it up by swapping out the highlights. And yeah, this is going to take a ton of paint. It's a huge model. This is a 150 millimeter base it's sitting on. Since it is so large, it means I can go ahead and break out my big brushes. Some of my friends like to airbrush these, and there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all. And in picking out what panels here are going to be what color. So, talking about fiction, the Convergence of Cyriss are cultists of a goddess of science and technology, and they eventually will put their souls into robot bodies, basically. Their warjacks, called vectors, are also a fair bit different from the warjacks the other factions use, in that they do not have the artificial brains called cortexes. One of the Convergence beliefs are that sentience and free will is a right exclusively reserved for beings that actually have souls. Well, they use little robots called servitors that have very complex, essentially punch card brains controlling them. They are not actually capable of anything resembling independent thought, while conventional warjacks actually are to a certain extent. They're about as smart as a trained dog overall, but will develop extensive personalities over time. As far as vectors are concerned, they have an interface node instead of a cortex that allows warcasters to control them. But they do so, they're more like giant puppets. And one of the two differences between them and conventional warjacks are they can share focus, a resource warcasters get at the start of their turn to fuel their abilities or power up their warjacks. And instead of having their own attack bonuses, they use the attack bonuses of their controlling warcaster. But they can never be jack-marshaled like other Warjacks can. And I'm going to be repainting and picking out quite a few of these in other colors as I go along. But unlike the Warhammer 40,000 Orc Death Dread I did last time, I have a much better idea of what areas are going to be what color from the get-go here. It's very easy to paint a whole army if you're going to do them with a cohesive color scheme anyway, once you get the first model done, as it's simply beyond that a matter of applying the same color scheme to everything else. And this thing's equipped with a, I can't remember the name of it, a spear gun here, shoots spikes. I'll look at the reference card. Got a couple of shoulder-mounted harpoon guns. They're technically its anti-armor weapon. They only do 1 point of damage each, but when they damage, they drag their target into base contact with this thing, and it gets to make a free melee attack as a follow-up. So, while the initial hit doesn't do much in the way of appreciable damage, that follow-up will. Its drill vices are its claws that fold up into drills. Yeah. Glad I had the backup because this is running really thin. And again, this is another model where you could have argued I should have painted partially before final assembly. Again, I prefer not to do that. It's simply personal preference. Well, then again, my whole life I've had a habit of subconsciously doing things the hard way. Yeah, okay, I actually think the nozzle on this is getting clogged. Oh yeah, that's definitely clogged. I'm getting that much resistance from a paper clip. This thing has much more surface area than the Death Dread I did last time. It's actually using fewer colors. My color scheme is fairly simple. And this is the original resin and metal kit. There's a new plastic kit that can assemble this and the Prime Conflux, which is the Convergence second Colossal. I generally don't look at the stats as something too hard until I actually own the model, but a friend of mine who plays Convergence as well just does not like it. I will get one eventually, but the new kit has it floating on a clear plastic flight stem instead of this big rock here. There will probably be a few other small differences as well. Like I said, I will eventually get one of those kits too to do the Prime Conflux. Though I eventually will want to be able to run dual Prime Axioms. I prefer to get one of everything first before I go on to duplicates. In most cases, there are exceptions. Warhammer 40,000, for example, looking at the way the detachments you organize your game in are configured, you'll need multiples of the troops at least. I mean, Tau have 3 choices for troops, Orcs only have 2, and Space Marines only have 2 as well. Or no, sorry, they've got 3, I was a little mixed up there. Yeah, 3 for the generics. Black Templars get a 4th. Getting the drill vise here. I wound up missing a lot of flash on this. Not sure how. Huh. Alright, well, in any case, I need a little more paint. Yeah. Be prepared. Models this large can devour your paint pots very quickly. It just is. And yes, this does have a fair amount of heft to it. Okay, that's got the left arm and the torso. Okay. Now, another fun fact about the Convergence, all of their members are basically scientists, mathematicians, geniuses, etc. And a lot of their projectile weapons can follow very exacting predetermined courses. They don't like gunpowder weapons because they consider that too chaotic and unpredictable, instead of preferring spring or gear-driven firing mechanisms that shoot spikes or blades. And a lot of their projectiles can follow pre-programmed flight paths. But these are flight paths they have to calculate completely in their heads. Then along the lines of calculating 0.23 seconds into your flight, go right, etc. a Spiker. That's the name of the anti-infantry spike gun in the top here. Its head is actually down here. It looks like it needs just a little more paint. And Prime Axiom does not walk, it hovers on what is literally anti-gravity technology. That's the fun thing about steampunk settings is they've got a Victorian era aesthetic, an Industrial Revolution aesthetic, but have technology beyond what we've got now in some areas. Whoa. Like I said, this thing has some pretty good heft to it. At least in this case, most of the weight's on the bottom. Some of the Warmachine standard bearer models across various factions, for example, are very top-heavy and tend to tip over, particularly the older metal kits. I think I'm getting more paint on me than I am on the palette right now. Okay. For a power source, vectors instead of coal and steam engines like other warjacks actually use latent magical energy that they pull in and store in batteries. They've got a field that draws and supplies it to them, which is found in most convergence facilities. They can essentially operate infinitely. Indefinitely is actually the correct word, with no need for any kind of recharging. In the field, though, they will burn through their reserves faster than it can replenish, so they stay partially powered down when they're not actually engaging in combat. I said this thing is taking a lot of paint. This bottle has a fair bit more than I thought it did, but still may not be enough. Okay. No. One of the big features of the Prime Axiom is once it completes a move during its activation, it can deploy a servitor. Aside from these not being taken out of your army cost, it letting you pop a useful low-cost solo anywhere you want it. Now I just need to get its leg area. Though it doesn't actually have legs, it's got these anti-gravity generators. And when painting, complexity of a model can have even more to do with how long it takes than surface volume. Okay, I'm getting there. Okay. Now it gets kind of funky as I finish up these hover pods here, the legs. And again. And in trying to get my money's worth out of these paints, I will literally try to squeeze every last drop out of them. I mean, face it, we'd all rather be spending more money on models than on paints, right? Yeah, getting there. Yeah, I think the vast majority of these recessed areas here I'm going to be doing with the lighting effects. Just got one little leg, that's not technically the right term, left. Let's see. Make sure I do the touch-up work as I go along. And still more paint is needed. Excuse me. There's still a lot of gunk floating around the air today. Alright, that's base coat number 1. I'm going to let that completely dry because my arm is tired. And move on to the other 2 in just a little bit. Okay. Next color, 09161 Shield Brown. I need a fair bit of that. And this is just going on the rock it's resting on. Just going to be careful not to nick the silver. this should be exactly enough. Okay, go ahead and let that dry and move on to the brass. Okay, last base coat is 09197 Old Bronze. I think it's Old Bronze. It's that one with the bad label. Very carefully getting these gears underneath. Again, this is a miniature. Yeah, miniature. This thing is bigger than my fist is, and it's technically a miniature. It's got quite a bit of heft to it. Then these gears connecting the 3 legs, for lack of a better word. Okay. There's some gears underneath that cowling here. Switching back to the smaller one for the finer details. Yeah, sometimes an awkward grip is the only grip you can get on something here. Going up into the shoulder under the cowling here. Okay, now. Making sure the brush is moist, but not too wet. I could have glued this particular claw on in a better way. And I didn't think about it till after it was done. Okay, that gets the right arm now. The left, I'm still not sure exactly what I'm going to do on the legs. Beyond those little gears I've already done, but got some time. Just being very, very patient. And still not quite enough paint. And almost done. Get that little nub there now. Then some gears on the wrist, inset here and here. I'm gonna get looking at the legs. Yeah. Gonna take a smaller brush. Each one of these servitors waiting to be launched has a couple of gears, one on each side. Again, that's one of the Prime Axioms. Key abilities is putting in servitors from outside the game into play. Giving you that much more on the fly flexibility. I'm going to go ahead and get the ones that are more deeply inset first. Removing the ones on the legs. I don't think this guy is in what could be considered true scale. Something to think about. You assume that at the scale you see these on the tabletop, they are true scale to each other. It's not necessarily the case when you think about it in some instances. Huh? Oh, never mind. I made a a mistake there, missed something for a second. It doesn't matter which section I do first, as long as I get them all. Okay. For a little bit of extra visual interest, this almost sawtooth cog inside on the Excella spike right here. Do that in the bronze. And then, yeah, that's pretty good. Okay. And that's base coats. Once that's dry, I'll start shading. Okay, next color 09205, Blackened Steel. It's actually been a few days since I've had a chance to work on it, but it's been a weird week. So this video is coming out a fair bit later than I had initially wanted. Life happens, so... Alright. So as this is up, and it's dripping off already. Anyhow, this is the shader for the steel. Yep, that's good. Now this is sure liking to drip off of the bottom of that harpoon gun here. And working high area to low area. Yeah, I think we'll go ahead and get the whole arm before moving on, or most of it at least. And yeah, this model, very physically heavy. But then again, considering it's a colossal, you'd be a little disappointed if it wasn't. And shade is dripping off of these points all over quite steadily. So, just gonna have to bear with it, nothing else to do. And yeah. Having a colossal, or a model called a colossal that wasn't big and heavy, would be as disappointing as having a, say, Warhammer 40,000 Titan that wasn't much bigger than a Space Marine. Working highest area to lowest so that recessed areas get their paint last and get touched up more easily. And if this burns through a whole bottle of paint, so be it. I've got a spare. Made sure to have spares on hand for all the colors I'm using so that I don't run out in the middle. Oh, this is dripping on the lower parts of the model, kind of doing part of the work for me. I'm sure this has happened to me before, but it's been a while. Good long while. Go ahead and get the Excella spider. Alright. Okay, getting there. just takes a while. As you can see, the shading again goes much faster than the base coats. I might even have gotten this a little too watered down. It'll work well enough just the same. Just keep at it. I'm getting a lot of paint spatter on myself today. I'm getting a little either overexcited or just tired, not sure which, but real craftsman's not afraid to get dirty anyway. On that note, you probably don't want to be doing this in a, three-piece suit or your little black dress or whatever your formal wear is. I think it's a testament to my love of the craft that nearly every pair of hands and every shirt I own has either paint stains or little blobs of resin on it. And the ones that don't are new ones I haven't worn a whole lot yet. just about done with the legs. I'll finish up the arms and we'll take a break before moving on to the brass, which will go faster because there's less brass and smaller areas. Now I've heard there's a painting technique for these models using the primer to shade, where you prime the bottom third in black, the middle third in gray, and the top third in white. And then you apply your base coats, your shading is supposed to be done for you. Got minimal interest in trying that myself, to be perfectly honest, but I've also not seen anybody who's actually done it either, so I don't know how it looks. Basically got 1/3 of the legs left, and then the arms. Yeah, maybe I do have this a little too soupy and wet. Nick the finger, but that's okay because it's silver anyway. I'm getting a little too enthusiastic about this. But then again, enthusiasm is generally a good thing, so I wouldn't worry about it. Okay, now the arms. I may need just a little more paint, but I'm hoping I don't have to. You can see on the base how much it's dripped onto the rock, and this is another reason to work highest area to lowest area. Just when you're shading. Base coating, you want to go low to high, and then highlight, low to high again. Just about done with this. Looks like I will have just about exactly enough paint to do this. And the more accurate you are when gauging how much paint you need, the less you use, and the less you have to spend on paint. Or rather, the less you waste, I should say, not the less you use. Just about done. Just about done. Very nearly. And there, that's got the shading from the steel. Alright, let that dry completely, and we'll move on to the next color. I think I got that a little too wet, and it shows. Okay. 09196H Pewter. Yeah. See if I can get through this before I have to get ready for the day job. So, significant update on Mastermind games. The Forests 1 set I'm currently working on. Just about done with the last of the layers to bulk it up to the appropriate shape. And last, the details will start soon and not take nearly as long as what I've done thus far. So I'm still confident I can get this released sometime in November, but it might be towards the end. Check Facebook and mostly Facebook for updates regarding that. This is a nice, massive set. Might even have to get new boxes to put it in for sale. Okay, and this color is going on all the bronze. These gears on the side. Don't know where that got. We'll tab that out. And there's the gear works on the back. Yeah, go ahead and get these gears in the area here. Then I'll go ahead and get the ones, the undercarriage. the arms. I'll come back and get the little gears on the sides of the servitors in a bit. Just trying to focus on one section at a time to keep track where I've been and where I need to be. My grip's failing there. The uptick, I think I got enough paint to do the job this time. Or at least close to it. Got the gears on the drill vise. Yeah, I am somewhat less than satisfied with the position of the right claw butt. It's too late to change it. I was going for a position, even using another Warmachine model to figure a way it could logically grab something. But it just didn't work out. Or rather, it didn't work out when assembled, and I saw how close that was to the spear gun. But as there's no way to disassemble that without either soaking it in chemicals for like a month and a half, or sawing the wrist off and re-gluing there, I'm just gonna live with it, because that's not, in my opinion, worth the effort in this case. Just about done here. Ironically, while I remember the little gear on the back here, I forgot the gear works in here. So for that, I'm actually going to use a smaller brush. Picked up a piece of semi-dry paint. That's one of the hazards of using a piece of glass like this. Well, aside from having it spontaneously shatter while cleaning it, that happened before to me. Okay, that's got that. I am going to go ahead and get just a tiny little bit more paint. That should be plenty to finish the job. Nuts. Well, I got that on the claw here. Let's dab that off. Okay. back to the elbow area. Get the gear works on the wrist here. Around to the rest of it. This little cog here. Just about there. Okay, now just need to get the servitors. Taking a thinner brush. And I think I'll start in the recessed areas. Dabbing on the sides where those gears are. This will go fairly quickly. They're numerous, but the area is small. I suppose I haven't really explained what servitors in the Convergence of Cyriss are. They are basically little robots about the size of a beach ball, I'd say, based on what the sculpts look, and this is what I'm talking about when I say the size doesn't add up. Comparing the ones here to the ones that are actually have their independent models. They basically have a punch card type control system and are single task little robots, such as repair and maintenance, marking targets, or attacking enemies. And there are 4 kind of general purpose servitors available right now, but that are solos, independent models, but some models, like the Transfinite Emergence Projector, I think the Prime Conflux, as well as Iron Mother Directix, have their own specialized servitors that help with their own unique abilities of the models they are companion to. this model, the Prime Axiom, can discharge any of the kind of 4 standard issue servitors with its ability. Now I've just got 2 more of these to get this paint on. Okay, that's got that. What am I doing for time? As I mentioned, I'm doing this before I have to get to the day job. Okay, I got enough time. So I'll go ahead and shade the rock too. So 09160 Woodstain brown. That should be plenty. Be real careful on this. Particularly where the rock meets the actual Prime Axiom. Just about there. Trying to pop some of these bubbles out. Okay, and that's got the rock. So next I'll be using white to shade in the areas that are going to be lighted. But for now, this is going to have to dry. Okay, stage 1 for the lighting, 09039 pure white. Gonna need a fair bit of that. Go ahead and start on the eyes. The head's right here. Oh, God. Thin this out just a little bit. Okay, that didn't work out all that great. There are 5 lenses here. And then these slots here, I want to have light come out of the well. So get those blend up with the white. Okay, I'm going over one section at a time. Okay, so going to the side, I'll probably end with the legs, I think. These slots in the side, I'm also going to have lighted. go ahead and do the other side first. If it extends a bit beyond that, that's fine. It'll come out when I highlight, for the most part, and a bit that doesn't will just help emphasize the glowing effect. Let's see. Yeah. And then these vents here. And though I'm calling them vents, they're probably not actually vents. And these coils. This would, I believe, be the actual battery that stores the magical energy that runs this thing when it's in between fights, or away from the magical power grid that the Convergence is thrown together. Okay, I don't see anything on the top, so I think I'll move on to the arms. And these slots behind the shoulder here are gonna be glowing. And these slots on the harpoon gun. Let's see, I think that's everything on the actual shoulder I want glowing. Just kind of going over one section at a time. And there's nothing on the arm I want glowing that I can see right this second. So, that's fine. the other gun here. Down that side, and now suppose I'll start on the servitors. Get those big eyes. Go ahead and do the ones on the outside of the legs last. Then I want these vents here. And all this is exclusively about personal taste. On second thought, these vents on the back of the arm look like they should be lit as well, so we'll just go ahead and do that real quick here. Nuts. What I'm going to do with this is the white will lighten up the area and make the thin wash of the actual color appear to glow. Let's see. I'm just making sure I've got everything I want on that side before I move on. It's alright. Okay, a little more paint, but not much more. Starting on one leg at a time, we're going to get these slots here. little feet are the anti-gravity nodes themselves. Allow this thing to fly. Getting there. Just meticulous work. Getting there. Just gotta be patient and meticulous. One foot down. And first person point of view would probably be ideal with this, but there are limitations on my camera I'm unable to get over at this time. So I eventually will upgrade to a better camera, but since these videos are not the end goal, but just a step in the way to my end goal, and it's not a huge priority. There's quite a few other things that have to come first. Missed a few spots on the previous leg. We'll just take a second to fix it. Just a little more paint. Just about done with this leg and just got one left. Okay. Just about there. Okay, last leg. The front is a little different than the rear. The rear too. I suppose calling this a pod would seem a little more accurate than calling it a leg. Getting there. Key to this step right here is to just check and double check. Well, really the whole thing in general, make sure you're not missing anything. Okay, just leaves the stuff on the top. I need to flexible fingers a bit. That's been holding it that way for too long. Get these servitors here, and then fill in the faction symbol. Do this entire node here. Okay, let that dry and actually do the lighting effects next. Okay, time to finish the lighting. 09004 fire red. And, okay, guess I need to explain myself. So, because I do the light blue lighting, which is kind of the official with my Signar, I do pink. Yeah, pink lighting with my Convergence. And a very dark highlight, actually. So we're going to take the fire red and take pure white 09039. Use a generous amount of that. And I'm taking my palette knife and mixing it up. Wanted a bit lighter than that, so a little more white. Got it. Small brush, get it really wet. And starting on the front here. Just filling in all the white areas with this wash. Go fairly quickly. Well, I suppose fairly quickly, relatively speaking. That one got a little to it. Marking stuff I don't want to. Got a little out of hand, we'll dab it down a bit. Doing this in the same order I painted the white. I'll actually do the big coils last, I think. Yeah, the decision to use pink lighting was 100% arbitrary. I knew I didn't want to do a completely official color scheme. I knew I didn't want to use light blue as the lighting, since I was already using that, and decided, why not pink? And just kind of rolled with it, and it works. Now, if you do want the official light blue lighting, use sky blue. I can't think of the number off the top of my head, but that maybe even lightened a bit with white would work very well for that electric blue the Convergence has officially. Okay. On to the legs. Trying to speed this up a bit, but just because the video is already at the 2-hour mark at this point, but I again will take as much time as I need to. That one got a little too much around it. Blot that out a bit. Oh shit, I missed some details here. Just have to roll with it. Not much else I can do, really. Look a little odd, but it'll be okay. Sounds like there's a rainstorm going on. We've got a storm in general going on. Just roll with it. Huh. Almost forgot that part. Boy. There's definitely a pretty good rainstorm going on outside, though I can't see it right this minute. I would say, though, in terms of the weather in my area, where was this in the spring? Would have been nice to have a few spring rainstorms. As I said, I am trying to speed this up a bit since this video was so long already. Oh, forgot the little glowing servers on the top of the legs here. Tag those real quick. Okay, just a few things left. These servitors on the front leg. And the faction symbol here. You can see once this with this area just really drinks it up fast. Now, going to the back and getting the coils. Just need a little bit more water in there to dilute it a little bit. Alright, that's good. Let that dry completely and then highlight and detail. Okay, this has been a weird week. So this video, is delayed more than it would be. So now highlighting. Going to highlight the bronze with Scorched Metal 09125. If you want to do an official color scheme, use 09198 Tarnished Brass instead. This is an older pot, so kind of running out. Got a spare on hand if I need it. Yeah, this one. I'm going to start on the surface, just dry brush the gears on the side, just like that. Try to work fairly quickly. This video is already long enough. And take this back to the front. I'm going to switch to a larger brush for the rest of this color. Keep resting on my humerus. Okay, so get the gears underneath. And can't do this one very well, but we'll at least get a little bit on that one under the cowling. Oh, doesn't particularly matter as long as I get it all. Okay. Gears on the side there. And then in there. Can't do that as effectively in general, but it's okay. And on a smaller model, I probably wouldn't go underneath as much, but colossal. This is kind of supposed to be a centerpiece model. Let's try to get the shoulder area before I move on to the arms. Okay. Should have about enough to do this. Getting that gear work is in the wrist. Okay. Just got a kink in my arm to work out. Nothing too big there. Okay, I'm making sure I got everything before I move on. Looks good. Maybe I'll need just a little more paint, but we'll just see. Get that assemblage in the upper arm. The joint. And again, when you're dry brushing, this is going to dry almost instantaneously, so it speeds things up substantially. Alright, losing my mind, I just did that part. It's the fingers I'm on. I think I got exactly enough paint here to do the job. Okay, that's got that color. Rinse that off. Give that a second to dry while I stretch that knot out of my arm. Just must have slept funny last night. Alright, then for the non-weapon steel, I'm going to go with Gunmetal Blue 09126. And just use True Silver if you want to do the official color scheme. Actually, since the official color scheme is chrome, True Silver mixed with a bit of purple or pearl white to lighten it. And this is a pretty dark blue. A dark metallic blue. And actually I can probably go ahead and go with this one. Larger brush for this. You see how much darker this is getting. Don't have it quite dry enough. That's my mistake. And this is where that bright pink lighting I did helps to balance out the rest of the color scheme. And with this much surface area, much easier to just kind of muscle through it. And so my paint decided to go on a trip across the table. Guess I'm doing this with a little too much gusto. I don't know, I did that part already. Certainly lose track of where I've been. Oh boy, that ain't good. just about there on this lower half. Probably gonna need more paint. Let's get the bottom. Go way up. I am getting a little more paint. Work that knot out of my arm. Still have no idea what I did to it. I think I have this quite dry enough. Suppose I've never really explained it, but on dry brushing, you want very little paint, hence the name, so you're rubbing it on the paper towel to get most of the paint off. One of these sections, yeah, there it is. One of these sections here, the paint got a place I didn't want it, so get that taken care of now. And let's go ahead and get the tungsten harpoon guns. I'm avoiding the actual harpoons because I'm going to highlight those in a more normal color. Harpoon guns, now the arms. Just gonna go ahead and do same section on opposite sides. Just very lightly dusting. The paint is getting caught on the raised areas. And then just going to get, for lack of a better word, the knuckles on these drills instead of the fingers. I suppose I should say drill since these combine into one big one, or that's the intent. If you look at the older books where these were, or the second edition Warmachine books where the Convergence was first introduced, there's concept art in there that shows just how much detail they went into, or they put into designing these things. Going so far as to figure out exactly how pieces and shields, etc., would actually interlock, even though they physically cannot on the model. Just a little bit more. We're almost done. Just about done. Okay. Just two more highlights. Oh, where'd I put it? 09207 True Silver. Won't need nearly as much of this. This is just going on the weapon. So the spikes. And the actual harpoons. And the drills. Okay. And where is it? Driftwood Brown 09162. And that's just going to go on the rock at the base. We're going to be careful about this so not to hit the actual Prime Axiom. And on the new completely plastic kit, as I said earlier, this rock is replaced with a flight stand. Okay, that's just going to leave the basing now. We'll get started with Rainy Gray 09038. And on these 150mm privateer press bases, they're pre-marked. Got these little nubs at the 180-degree marks, and then the front arc split in half again, as models of this size have special rules called Fields of Fire, where as opposed to making attacks into only their front arc, they've got that front arc split in half. So we're going to go ahead and let's go up to that nub in the Rainy Gray. We'll go ahead and let that dry and move on. Okay, finishing up the back arc with pure black 09037. And this is clogged. Not want this spurting out a big blob at random. It's done so many times before where I've neglected to unclog it. Is that, not this one, this one. Gotta be more careful on this one near those nubs. Gotta be very careful how I hold this. Do not want to get paint on either the model or my hand. And this is not the first Warmachine Colossal I've painted, but it is the first one I've recorded. Okay, that's got that. Now let that dry and finish up just a last little detail there on the base and actually get the flock and sand down. Okay, last bit of paint. One, since I'm going to end up with more than one of these eventually, I'm going to number it using pure white 09039. That's more than enough. Just a quick Roman numeral 1 on the back there, just like that. And then, taking 09051 new gold, I'm going to pick out the raised little nubs on the base, because like all huge based models in Warmachine, with huge being defined as 150 millimeters, it has its front arc divided into 2 fields of fire. So I'm going to take this gold and just paint those nubs carefully. And what the field of fire rule on these bases do is all weapons on one side or another can only attack into that half, or be used on a model whose base is bisected somehow by the center point. So this is a convenience for the players from a development standpoint to clearly show that, especially as powerful as these things can be. Okay, and once that dries, basing. Okay, finishing up Elmer's glue all into a convenient container. Plenty of water, about half glue, half water, give or take. In this case, I'm going to cover the base in talus, also called ballast or rock debris, and I topped this off and mixed a little coarse in with the fine. Just need to get a brush, keep it nice and wet because it'll help it last longer. This is something of a tool sacrifice. I'm going to paint that around the base. Let's go about these this particular style of base is that it's got a lip. Helps hold material in. I've mentioned that before, but it's worth mentioning again. Trying to keep the glue solution off of those hover pods. Or I guess anti-gravity is what it is. Yes, a industrial revolution society where one group has anti-gravity technology. Okay, and because of how large this is, I'm going to have to just kind of scoop it in. This is not ideal by a long shot, but sometimes you just got bad choices all around. So this is the best bad choice I've got here. Alright, that's pretty good. Brush that off the front there. And once that's dried a bit, let's try to knock some of that off the base of the rock there. Okay. Let that dry a bit, and then I can seal it. Okay. Literally decided over the last 30 seconds I'm going to add a little bit of static grass to this base. So to do that, I'm going to pick the area it's going to go in and just brush away some of that debris. Then taking the static grass itself, going to get a patch together. Yeah. This is why I have the tiny little scissors. I don't care one way or the other. They happen to be pink. It was the only color they had in this size. So taking the end, and this is Hobby Tech. It's a kind of cement. It sticks to this like you wouldn't believe, so it's a little tricky to open if I don't use it that often, which I don't use it all that often. So we're just going to dip the end into that there and apply. You'll have to hold this for a bit. Okay, we'll need another cluster. I'll worry about trimming it down to a more appropriate height after this has set. Making sure to get a generous amount of the adhesive on it. Just getting set it up next to the first. This just takes a little extra work, but I feel it's worth it. And then once that has completely dried, we will seal it and trim this down. Alright, now to seal. First, now this is on here, we're going to take the scissors and trim this down just a little bit. There, that looks a lot better. And then scenic cement again. Carefully, just dropping it on one drop at a time. Doing too much too soon will result in a uneven layer of flock or whatever, because it will get moved around by the actual water or cement. It's in water. You do not want to confuse this for water. Even the smell is pretty bad. I can't even imagine what it would be like to actually drink some of this intentionally or otherwise. Again, the purpose of this is to seal the base and keep these flock, sand, talus, whatever, from coming off. All of it to just look moist. Once it's dry, you'll be good to go. And that's it. And that is a Convergence of Cyriss Prime Axiom from Warmachine. The next several videos are all going to be Warhammer 40,000, starting with some Tau Crisis suits. So until then, I am Ian Stuckey, and have a good night.